Hello and welcome everyone. I just made a coding stream in which I implemented a feature for my modulation system. You can check it out if you want to see me looking painful while trying to figure out the logic, but you can also just watch this video in which I will just try to let ChatGPT come up with a better name for the variable, for the logic that has been implemented. But first of all, I will quickly describe to you the problem. Imagine that you want to modulate a parameter with the first modulator, so with macro 0. But then you select the modulator that has just been modulated and you try to modulate back to macro 0. Now that doesn't work because I already implemented this to not work, but it actually worked before I did that, and that absolutely made no sense at all, because like what would that even be when something modulates something back that already modulates the thing? But the bigger problem is it is kind of a really hard problem to reason about, as well as just something that I cannot put into words nicely. So it's kind of hard to come up with good variable names, and I have heard different people saying that they use ChatGPT to come up with variable names. So in this video I decided to explore this opportunity to make my code readable for other programmers and myself in the future. Let's see if ChatGPT can help me renaming the variables in my code. Hello ChatGPT. I just wrote a basic modulation system for my VST plugin. It only consists of 4 macro modulators. So each modulator is just represented by its macro. In the method in which the modulation depth from the currently selected modulator is applied to a certain parameter, different edge cases have to be handled. For example, one of them would be to check if the modulator tries to modulate the parameter of itself, which obviously shouldn't work. In my code, this looks like that. The PID represents the destination parameter's ID, and mindex is the index of the modulator that is currently selected. So obviously if they line up, then it's the same macro. Now there is another edge case that I handle there. Imagine macro 1 is already modulating macro 2, and now macro 2 tries to modulate macro 1. That doesn't make sense, so it should be prohibited. The code that successfully accomplishes that is the following. Actually, let's rename this because we want it to be a bit more generic now so that ChatGPT can come up with something. However, I am not happy with the name of this state being XXX, because that does not sufficiently describe this edge case. How would you rename this variable? Good job on handling those edge cases. Thank you. Regarding the variable name, it's always a good practice to use descriptive names that convey the purpose of the variable. In this case, the purpose of the variable is to check whether the currently selected modulator is already being modulated by the destination parameter. So a possible alternative name for the variable XXX could be is modulating selected modulator, or is dest parameter already modulating selected modulator. Holy shit, that is pretty long. The name is longer, but it clearly conveys the purpose of the variable and makes the code more readable and understandable for other programmers who might need to work with it in the future. Yeah, or even myself needing to work with it in the future. Okay, so is destination param already modulating selected modulator? I mean, sure, that just describes it. That describes it better than I could have described it, and it describes it better than the people in my chat wanted to describe it in my stream that I just gave. It's cool though, you are all cool. It's cool that you were there, but I just wanted to check if ChatGPT will make my future life easier. But let's also think about the other suggestion. Is modulating selected modulator? How would that feel if that was the thing? It would make me feel like, what is modulating the selected modulator? But this name does not make me feel like that because it describes what's happening. Yeah, that makes sense. So I do have to keep the longer name, even though I usually don't like long variable names. But in this case, it is just, the edge case is just too crazy to let that slide. And this is just the solution that I seeked for.